Before this video starts, please make sure to like and sub. I need all the support I can get, please, and it only takes like 5 seconds, so like, what are you waiting for? Just do it. Or not. That would kinda suck, you know? Well, now that season 1 of the Owl House is over, it's time for some retrospect. And not just on the Owl House, but this topic that I'm talking about in general, and that is LGBTQ representation in kids' cartoons. Listen, I'm not gonna sit here and pander to an audience that doesn't need pandering, since I really respect this community as I do all communities, except pedophiles, obviously. You guys, you can leave, okay? Bye-bye. We won't miss you. Anyway, what I mean by respect is that I'm going to treat them equally as I would treat any other community, meaning there will be no special treatment from me, since these types of relationships in cartoons are exactly the same as a straight relationship in my opinion. Both require a lot of hard work, a lot of emotional support, the whole kazoo. There is no in-betweens. So what is this video about? Well, this video is about why Lumity, the predominant ship of the show, works in my opinion compared to other shows who tried, and sometimes succeeded, and some that completely failed. So without further ado, here we go. To me, the key to a functioning relationship in a cartoon and in real life is emotional honesty and conflict between the characters or real life people. This conflict could either separate them for better or for worse, as sometimes relationships don't really work out. Both characters, Amity and Luce, do all of this subtly and openly throughout the first season of the show, with the characters having a pretty tense relationship in the beginning that slowly melts away as they interact more and more often. Now, a common complaint that I see about this relationship is that there was very little development and it felt a bit rushed to some people. Now, I do agree with the speed at which it was done, but just because the pace was quick doesn't mean it's bad or rushed in my opinion. People also need to remember that this show isn't just about the ship, it's the Owl House, not the Lumity House. They still have a broader story to tell, and I don't think they should sacrifice the integrity of the show for fan cams on Twitter. Anyway, bringing it back to Lumity, the episodes that they did share together, in my opinion, were handled super well from a story standpoint, as most of the conflict between them, to me, wasn't unreasonable or even annoyingly cliche, for the most part. As the conflict between them was caused by a plausible misunderstanding that is realistic or just the fault of either one of them, i.e. good intentions, bad execution, or bad intentions, bad execution, if you know what I mean. Though in most of these episodes there is always one through line, and that is that by the end of their conflict they understand each other a little bit more, and you feel that personal connection through the voice acting, script, and animation as the facial expressions match their pained or maybe happy expressions. Even the more casual and funny scenes seem to get an emotional reaction out of me because the characters feel so real and their personal connection feels so tangible. From what we see so far, there's been no pigeonholing of characters, as both still operate as independent from each other and don't sacrifice character for it, unlike other shows. And speaking of other shows, I'm going to give you an example of a relationship that could have worked to me, but fell a little bit short. Also, before we go into the comparison, please keep in mind that this is my opinion, you don't have to agree with me, and if it doesn't line up with yours, I'm sorry, but you can fully disagree if you want to, and you can even argue with me. That's perfectly fine. I just want to get my opinions out there, you know? I'm just trying to save myself before the fandom tries to kill me, so bear with me, okay? Anyway, here we go. So if you've seen my videos, the majority of the time I'm always bashing other shows, and that show that I bash a lot is Steven Universe because I see it as one of the biggest wasted potentials of a cartoon ever. It was great. It could have been great, but it did not turn out great, sadly. But we're not necessarily focusing on the show in this video. I don't know if I'll ever make that video, but if I do, it'll be long. But we're not focusing on that, we're focusing on the characters. Specifically one character, Garnet. But even more specifically, Ruby and Sapphire. Now the intro to these characters were masterfully done in Jailbreak. I love the introduction, I love the song, they were adorable. It left all of us wanting to see more. But, did it go anywhere? No, not really. Don't get me wrong, I love Garnet, but Ruby and Sapphire never interested me because they just felt like cardboard. The show's in 2D and not in 3D, yet the ship feels so one-dimensional it's crazy. They feel like caricatures of what a stable relationship should be, but they never explore it for more than 2 or 3 episodes in the entire show, which is kind of crazy. Yeah, they were cute when they were on screen together, but cuteness doesn't equate to something that feels genuine or real. Fan service and shipping don't equate to complexity in a character, which I feel many people in the fandom don't really realize and honestly don't care. And more power to them, they shouldn't really care because it's a kids show. That's a lie. People who say that are stupid. And yes, STU fandom, I know that Ruby and Sapphire had many episodes where they explored their past, but there seems to be one common thing that happens in almost all of these episodes, and that is that Ruby and Sapphire are rarely independent from each other. You almost never see them act independently from each other whenever they're infused from Garnet, and that doesn't really bode well when you're trying to develop a realistic relationship because in order to make it believable, both characters by themselves need to be more developed and have more depth than just Hot and cold. I find it pretty embarrassing that the Owl House created a more plausible and believable relationship than Steven Universe did in the span of one season. They never had to sacrifice the story's integrity, they didn't sacrifice anything at all, to be honest. It works because the characters' motivations are believable and both exist independent from each other. Both act like characters, not caricatures. Well, enough shitting on Steven Universe for now. Let's compare the Owl House to a show that did a LGBTQ relationship the best in my opinion, and that show was Adventure Time.
Come along with me.
I know I'm biased because this is my all-time favorite show, but hear me out. I love that Marceline and Princess Bubblegum act independently from each other for most of the show. These specific solo episodes allow them to create more character depth, so when they are together in their duo episodes, it works a lot better as now we understand their character motivations behind their actions. They aren't empty. Now the Owl House so far, no matter what the conflict or storyline plot of the episode is, Luz will always be involved in some way. Now that isn't really the problem. What I feel like they could do that's more efficient is give that time that they give to Luz to maybe the world or different characters. Because the Owl House desperately needs more world building because the Boiling Owls to us right now is still pretty much a mystery. But we're getting off topic. How could I apply these solo episodes to the ship to maybe improve it or maybe up the development even further? To do this, we can make a hypothetical episode. Maybe one about Amity since we are talking about Lumity after all. Maybe we get a slice of life episode and see the everyday motions of Amity. We can go through her routine, her schedule, her hobbies, and maybe even get a glimpse of her parents. Maybe for whatever reason school is cancelled and Amity has to stay home. Now I know the setup is simple, but it can make for some great reflection as maybe it deals with Amity's isolation in her own home. Yes, she has a brother and sister, but it seems like she's in their shadow rather than in the spotlight with them. We can go through the hobbies that she has to keep herself busy while she's alone. Hobbies besides reading, maybe she draws or writes or has a secret passion that nobody knows about. But we can dig deeper. Maybe we see her struggling about her crush with Luz, maybe she's questioning her position in her family. Something that you wouldn't get from just a Luz and Amity episode, something that only one character can focus on, because not everything could be solved with a partner or a friend. In order to do that, you need to love yourself first, and maybe Amity struggles to do so. Examples of Adventure Time episodes that do this type of self-reflection are excellent reflection episodes like Ketchup, where Marcy goes over the Elements fiasco, reflecting on what happened to her and Bonnie. Finn and Jake didn't need to be shoehorned in, because they weren't part of that story. It was Marcy's story, just like how Amity has her own story that doesn't really involve Luz. And by Marcy's story, I'm referring to her trying to save Bonnie from Patient St. Pim. An episode like Varmints and the entire Stakes miniseries is more like a payoff to all these solo episodes that built up this relationship, as now we understand these characters even more. The progression was so natural that it felt real, and that's pretty crazy when you're talking about a 2D animated cartoon about vampires and bubblegum princesses. I also feel like the Owl House with its 20-minute runtime can do what Adventure Time did, but maybe improve upon it if they can, as they have more time to be more subtle and set up episode conflict and B-plot more efficiently. Whereas Adventure Time only had 10 minutes to tell their story. Well, I gave you an explanation of why the ship works, and now you have my reasoning and my comparisons. What do I want from the future? Well, to live up to the standard of the first season where it continues to have consistency like no other show. It is a joy to watch, and not only is it a joy to watch, but I'm glad that millions of people just like me see the potential for something big in this show. Hey, hope you enjoyed this video. I spent way too long making it, Jesus Christ. I'm gonna keep it short. I'm definitely going to make an Amphibia video, but until then, see you guys later. Hopefully I can still do one upload a week. This online schooling is killing me, alright. Whatever. See ya.